Hello, everyone. We're going to be starting in just a few minutes. I want to give everyone a chance to join. Give it about one more minute and then I'll get started. All right, here we go. Well, thank you everyone for joining here today. We are going to be talking about a Church360 Unite, which is an incredible software that we make, and we're going to talk about how it connects to your church communication strategy. So let's dive on in. But first, a couple slides here for some due diligence. One, we have a team of software consultants here that would do absolutely anything to help you answer questions, whether it's about our products or just areas that you're looking for to grow and remove friction from your workflows in the church office. So you can contact our team via the number here or the email, and I'll put you personally in contact with one of our software consultants, one of which has been working with us for over 20 years. So you can imagine he's worked with a lot of churches. We have a really wonderful, talented team. And moving forward, I want to introduce a couple key people. So if you're not familiar, Concordia Technology Solutions, we call it CTS. That's kind of the product division that brings you products like Church360 Unite, what we'll be talking about today, products like Shepherd Staff or Church360 members. We have an incredible group of people here. I was talking about our software consultants. We also have an amazing team of in-house support techs that if you do choose to work with us and have a software with CTS, they are in the building, I believe, from 7:30 to 5 or something around there. And they'll work with you to get you set up. And, they are so knowledgeable and great to work with. My name is Rob Davidson, and I am one of the managers at CTS. I've been with the company for 2 years. And so I'll be giving the webinar today. And then your church is the other key person that I really want to emphasize as part of this webinar today, because we want you to choose the right solutions for your church, not just our solutions. So one, I want to encourage you to, don't feel pressured by us that like, hey, we're going to show a great tool, but at the end of the day, you got to make the best decisions for you. That being said, so much of our team, whether there are developers or there are, people who are support techs who help advise and troubleshoot issues with the product, many of them have come from being pastors or are currently pastors. And so we have a long history of being in the church, and we know one or two things about creating solutions for church members. So jumping in, what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to be talking about Church360 Unite, which is our web builder software, and how it connects with your church communication strategy. So then, who is this webinar for? This is for ministry leaders, administrators, and volunteers, anyone who might potentially be working on your church website or doing some communication stuff. And the why is because we believe in supporting your ministry with technology. So what we'll do is I'll kind of have a two-part presentation here. Is one, we'll talk about church communications, but then we'll move on to really diving into the product. So, church communications. What is a church communication strategy? So, I think maybe in a different medium, I'll get really, really nitty gritty, but I really want to keep things simple so that no matter your background, this can be valuable for everybody. So I've broken up a church communication strategy into three things. Is one, you need a place to greet visitors. Then you need a way to provide them value. And then you need, thirdly, a way to invite them back, either to your church or back to where you're providing them more and more value, right? And so you can kind of see here if you start with a place to greet visitors, it then goes over to from a website to a resource hub, and then using outbound message to bring them back in, and that allows them to have a long fostered relationship with your church, which is, as I'm sure you can guess, really important. So what I wanted to do to illustrate this is to kind of create a life cycle of a new prospective congregant, how they may interact with your church. So if you look at the far left there, I have that block that says prospect looks for a new church home. It's where a lot of people start. When people are looking for a church, they'll either be referred by someone who's already a congregant or is familiar with your church, or they'll go looking online. This is why a website is so important, right? When they're searching on Google, especially when it comes to, a church in St. Anne, right? You need a church to be able to pop up. That's why a website is important. Once they go to your church website, they visit your church, they'll fill out a visitor card, or somehow you'll get their email, right? That's really, really important because that's how you're going to invite them back. Invite them back to join the church and invite them to new resources and things that can welcome them into the community. If people visit and never kind of get a nudge to be welcomed back into the church, there's a good chance they won't come back to the church. So we want to kind of think of welcoming new people into the church like hospitality. When you go to a restaurant, do you have a better experience if you have, your servers and your hosts are really conscientious of, hey, we have a visitor here. Let's make sure they get a seat quickly and they have a great experience at the church. These are pieces where your communication strategy can do a lot of that work. So once they come to your church, you invite them to join. They choose to join your church, and then you can invite them to receive value. So what we're calling a resource hub is still your website, but it's a place where they can spend time on your site. So whether or not that's watching sermons, reading a blog, or engaging with other congregants, it's important to create an environment where they can grow both relationally and spiritually with your church, even when they're not directly in the church. And then, let's see here. So you follow up with them, they join the church, and then you're introducing them to small groups and volunteer opportunities, right? Because it's great if someone just joins the church and they're there on Sunday, but kind of like I'm getting at is it's about having that deeper relationship. So someone who's more engaged with the church, that's great for the church and great for them. So then I have that they participate in group discussion boards and you can see different resources. So these are all this is just a really simplified way that someone can interact with a church from the point of discovery to having a really established relationship with the church. And Church360 Unite helps you do that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the product just to introduce it, and then we're going to dive into our demonstration today. So Church360 Unite. So churches, as we're kind of getting at, have some unique website and communication needs. They're not just like any hobby or small business. They're very unique. And most solutions often fall short from meeting these needs because most of the time web builders are built for businesses. There's a very good chance that you don't need an e-commerce solution for your website. You need something that has tools that's built for how people are going to interact with your site, your congregants, and their interaction with the church, right? So you can't just use anything if you want to give people the best experience possible. So what are some of the kind of core things that Church360 Unite can do? So one, I've been talking about communication. So included with your subscription, you can freely text and email people through your website, which is really, really unique. Not many websites can do that. It's very easy to use. You don't need to know coding like HTML or JavaScript in order to make the website work. We have plenty of people who are in their 80s that use the software regularly. We make it as easy as possible. But then it has these additional features. We have discussion groups where you can have forums and share resources, either PDFs about a small group that you're doing, or links to different resources. We give you the ability to do that, and give your congregants the ability to do that through the website, which in my time, not a lot of websites do that either, unless you're talking about something like Reddit or Facebook. But again, this is something that's completely tailored to your site. And then the other area that I think is really unique for churches is the online directory. So as I'll kind of showcase a little bit later, Unite syncs with Church360 members, and even without doing so, you can build an online directory that only people who have access to your software, which you can make private to just your congregants, they can then see important information about your church, about other congregants, if you choose to make that information available. And I've found that that's a lot easier than maintaining a paper directory, because a lot of the times, the small printed booklets, they get lost. And having a place where churches or congregants can go to find out where someone lives or send them a phone call, whether it's to support them in prayer or to create a meal train, these are things that churches are very active in doing, is having that community that trusts each other but can do so in a safe way. So again, those are just kind of 4 kind of big things that I love showcasing. But as you can kind of see from this list, and this isn't even comprehensive, Church360 Unite does a lot. So I think I have one more slide, but then let's jump in. So how does your church benefit? Helps you manage all these tasks and more, helping your communications and you growing the visibility of your ministry, which I'm sure you all understand is so important. So, time for our demonstration. If you bear with me for just a moment, I'm going to switch screens here. And here we go. All right. So you can see here, this is a home page for a demo site that we've created. So upon entering, you can kind of see a couple noteworthy things. So you have this, this banner, this design, and then you have this kind of home page environment, the footer. You'll see this eye icon, but then you'll see, the stuff like the eye icon, this edit page piece, and this bar up here that don't feel like it's for everybody. So what you're seeing is I'm logged in. So you're already seeing me kind of navigating a part of the back end of the site. So if I go ahead and see it says, welcome Rob, I'm going to sign out. Oh, because we don't have that live. I have to go back to the demo environment. Okay, so here you go. So now I've logged out, and you can kind of see, a couple of these things disappear. So I'm going to go ahead and sign back in. Here we go. I'm clicking too fast. Okay, so jumping in, let's do a really quick tour of some of the key kind of very basic features. So up here, the least fun one will have settings. Here you can kind of set up your, the core church information. You can set up the calendars that you have for your church. You can set up your domain. You can set up your integration with Google Analytics. You can integrate to Shepherd staff if you have that. Integration with Church360 members is done automatically. You can add social links so they appear in the footer. And you can set up your opt-in message for texting. So then jumping over here, we have themes. Now themes are pretty neat. I come from a web design background before I worked here at CTS. And so one of the things that's really difficult is designing a beautiful website. That's something that you kind of have a lot of experience with websites in order to do that. So we make that really easy. So you saw the example that we had when I first showed the homepage, but let's see if I want to kind of switch it up a little bit. I'm going to click another theme here, click down here, apply theme, and I can hit this X, and look at that. We have a different feel of the site within 3 seconds. So again, this is super, super easy to use. If you want to get a little bit more granular, you can change and edit and modify the different headings and block styles and different text here into different fonts. You can then customize colors and banners, etc. And then we give you the ability to jump in and tweak the HTML, but this is not necessary to get the most out of Unite. All right, so, and then kind of next thing I want to show, let's jump over to page themes. So if I jump here, you can see this is our navigation. So through the navigation, there's going to be a bunch of different pages that you have built for any which reason to create value for your congregants and visitors of the site. So, but that being said, how do people find them? So the navigation is the key way to do that. And so you can see here that there's a good amount of stuff that could be beneficial. So if you hover over I'm new, for instance, we have worship times, announcements, newsletters, contact us, right? All things that make sense for someone to be able to see if they're evaluating your church. So the way we manage that is within the page sections. You can see here that you see that I'm new section with the drop downs of worship times, announcements, newsletter, etc. Right? Very easy to use. What's also neat is that we kind of create a few pre-built templates to help you get on your way really easily. So if I wanted to create a what we believe page, I'd create the page. We're going to call it example belief page, hit enter, and then that's become a real page. So I could always click that and it would pull up this kind of pre-built environment for you to then edit in and kind of go to work, right? And then it's just kind of a rich text environment, super easy to use. Now, how do we get that into our environment here? So I would kind of scroll down to find that. Where did I put it? Okay, well, it's not helpful. Here it is, right here, this example. So if I wanted to put it in the I'm new section, I would drag it and place it right there. Another thing that I can do that, again, is really unique to Unite, unless you have a really fancy website, is the ability to make different pages private or public. So right now, there's a lot of pieces here, like worship times and different things. This is in draft state. But then you'll see announcements here. That has nothing next to it. So that's a published site, and it's public, so anyone can see it. But then you can see a couple of these that shows members only. Now, that means it's going to be a private site that only if you're logged in, you can see it. Now, that's really key. So if I jump over here to users, yes, I'm not going to save. You can see all the congregants in the site, and many of these have emails that I have signed up to have access to, in our demo environment, Church360 Unite. So you can see here, so these are a couple that have been sent out. Here's one that has joined. So Jordan here, who's actually one of our support techs, he could, if he's an example congregant, he can use his email to log in to the church website. Now, what would that give him to do? So the ability to do. So if I go back to pages, let's see a couple things here. So there's things like the prayer request page and members, right? And the newsletter here. These are things that have that members only piece in front of it. So we're going to X out, and we can see by clicking the menu, I can see that. So the I'm new announcement newsletter, okay, great, members only. Now what happens if I sign out? See, now I have to do this again. Because we're in a fake environment. So you would not experience that. So I'm signed out. So you're not saying, oh, something's changed here. So I can't get to the newsletter where we just were, right? I can't go to Connect and I can't find the directory. Look at that. Now, if I sign in again, sign in, whoop, oh, the newsletter's back, and then I can click members, which is the example of our online directory, right? So this allows you to have great tools like an online directory, but for you to be able to rest easy knowing that not everybody can access this information. Only people in the congregation that you personally invite in can then access this information, which I think is pretty neat and a pretty cool tool for churches. Another piece that I think is really, really valuable is the ability to make posts. Now, this is where that creating resources piece that I was talking about earlier, like the resource hub, this is a part of that. So with this, you can see this list of different things that the church has generated and put out into a different kinds of content streams. So you can see here that we have a pastor's blog, a prayer request board, another pastor's blog, sermons, right, and then some news and announcements, right? And you can see they're in either a published or draft phase status here. And then you can also see the author as well and when they were published. So you can see all the way back to 2013, people have been using this demo environment. So I think that's really cool because it allows your church to be able to provide additional value than just a static, basic web page. And you don't have to have any fancy software to do it because Unite is so straightforward. So one more thing before I get into some other pieces of the Resource Center is, as I was pointing out earlier, you could see that people have been managing this demo environment for over a decade now. So what's interesting about that is that just like us, your church could be using this software for a long time, and you might have multiple cooks in the kitchen. So it would be really good to know what changes are being made to the website and when. So that's why we have the activity log or event log in your activity kind of section. And so what this does is it shows you what date, time, who, and what was changed throughout your website. So you can see here that I can just keep scrolling forever to see all of the changes that were ever made on your site. And this just goes back for years and years and years. And so you can see here that, Tristan was added by Kent. That's our fictitious pastor's name. And then some other people were added as well. Some emails were removed. Hey, this login account canceled Sunday morning service, right, for whatever reason. So again, this shows you any changes that are made in the software, which allows either your administrator, your pastor, or whoever to be able to let other people make changes, but you can keep an eye on them. Like they're just not going to make changes without you knowing, which I think is really neat. Another thing that you can see is all of the logged activity, like the email log and communications that have gone out from all your users. So if you see here, we have all these users that we've invited to the software. And then you can see here in this list that these are ones that are part of mailing list. They're listed, right? That means they're shown in the directory, but then they can also be a part of mailing lists. So I have different mailing lists here that represent different reasons in which I want to send out a communication. So some people are part of the maintenance team, some are in charge of hospital visits, elders, church council, right? These are all, they make sense why they're part of an email list, right? Because you don't want to send one communication out to everybody when it's really just meant for a small amount of people. So what I can do here is I can then tag people accordingly, invite them to these specific groups, and then add them to this mailing list, right? And then I can see all that activity in the email log. I think it's just giving me a little bit of a runaround on loading. Here we go. So you can see here that anytime an email has been sent out, we get a log of it. So it shows that it's been from Unite, when it happens, what the subject line is, and who it's sent to, and whether or not it was delivered or if it failed for one reason. For instance, for us, if the email was fake. Um, so I think that's pretty neat. And then we also have the way to invite people to join in for texting opt-in. Right now, only Grant, he's one of our software consultants, he's the only one who's opted in. Um, and he was kind of getting his feel of the software. Obviously, we don't have a group of congregations to see invite them in. You can also see comments that have been left on discussion boards. So as this loads, you can see here we have a couple locations and they're posted on different dates and what texts. So again, this is when you can kind of track, hey, what are people asking? And it allows you to have that additional layer of communication. But let's jump into kind of some of the ways in which your congregants can, communicate with each other on Unite here. So let's go to, it's always fun to try to find one that's really good. So I think this one we have pretty populated. So this is a group that's built around our 20s and 30s small group ministry. Your church might have something similar. It might have a name, or you might have a ministry that a lot of people are a part of, but it's very different. In any case, you can post pictures, texts, and different information here, including videos, whether or not you're streaming a service or just showing an informational video, right? You can have that as part of the main page of your group. But then you also have the ability to post documents, photos, invite members, join the group if you're not a part of it yourself, but then also have a discussion board. So you can see here, we have some example correspondence between Kent Williams, our pastor, and some other people, right? And so there were some announcements and some different correspondence on the site. And so you can imagine that this is valuable for congregants to be able to talk with each other, whether it's, in the instance of a small group, hey, here's this resource, give it a read through before you come to our next event, our next prayer group, etc. Or if they're talking about the subject matter, maybe if you have a group that's dedicated to, reading through Ruth, but it's done completely kind of on their own, but then you talk about it online. This is a way to do that. And again, this is a really unique tool that you don't see in most website builders because it's geared for people having a really close relationship with each other within, one church, right? Where if you have a Shopify site, right, that's meant for selling products. One customer doesn't really have a need to talk to another customer. Thus, tools like this aren't a part of those web builders. But again, this is why I think Unite is really, really special. So just in case you've started the trial and you want to play with this yourself, if you want to create a group page, you go to Add Page, and then you hit this group button, and then that'll create it, and you can kind of go from there. So I think that's a good place to stop our demonstration today. So I'm going to jump back to our slides here. All right. So there we go. One, thank you so much for attending. I'm going to be here on the line for a little bit. I want to answer any and every question that you have. So if you look inside, whether you're looking at this via a browser or you've downloaded the go-to app and you can submit a question, I totally encourage you to do so. I'm going to try to make this time as valuable as I can. I'll be on the line for another 15 minutes or so. Or as long as we need in order to answer all your questions. While I wait for some questions to roll in, I want to let you know that we're doing free software assessments. So if you are not sure if there's an area where you can use technology in your church, we are kind of doing free consulting for churches. So that's kind of a deep dive sesh with one of our software consultants. And getting into the nitty gritty of your church office and different workflows and what you can do to make the most of it. So you can reach out to sign up or ask any questions after this time today. Or if, hey, you're watching this recording, feel free to send an email to this address, ctscommunity@cph.org, and we'd be happy to get back to you. So we got one question here from John. How mobile friendly is the formatting and how does it show up on iPhones, iPads, etc.? Most of our themes are incredibly responsive, like the ones I was showing today. They show up really, really well on iPhones, iPads, etc. We have a couple examples on our website that you can totally check out and see how they pop up. Great question. Steve says, I believe we have all of our software. Well, that's great. That's good to hear. Steve, let us know if there's anything we can do to assist you, but it seems like we're doing a decent job. Roger asks, how does Unite directory work in conjunctions with Church360 members? That is a great question. So if you have Church360 members, that entire directory is automatically synced, which means you don't have to do double entry. It saves you time. That's great. There's also a really cool other feature, is that because it's synced together, right, you can invite your congregants to edit and update their contact information on Unite, and that information will flow over into Church360 members, saving you time. It's one of my favorite features on Unite. Can you convert data from other systems? We can do data conversions if you're going to, for instance, Church360 members. I would be curious what you mean converting data from other systems when it comes to a website. If it's just copy and pasting things, that's not stuff we typically do for churches. Not to say that we wouldn't, but we don't have like a conversion product for that because it's more of just kind of like, hey, you're taking a picture, you have the file, and you're putting it up somewhere else, which is a pretty streamlined process. We do a lot of data conversions with, Church360 members with, when people might have just mountains and mountains of data that it would take them, a month, 2 months more to get all that data into the new system. That's when we charge a fee and where a data conversion is actually a great value because it's saving you so much time. I don't know if the value is there for what we'd have to charge for because of our time. We don't charge one for Unite, but if you're talking about our other software products, we do offer converting data products. The online directory, the members don't know. Steve asked a follow-up question. He's asking about the household level and whether or not it's set to one of the members as the default contact for their household. I think that would be a great question for our support team. Since this, I'm not 100% sure. I would think that those are distinct records. But I would encourage you, and I can always put you in contact, Steve, with our support team, and let me do that. So I'll take a picture here of your email in question, and I'm going to send that over to them. Actually, I'll make this other note here because I want to make sure I get you the. So, Steve, I'll follow up with you. I'll make sure you get the answer you need. Andy asks, can you convert congregation lists or mass upload features from Excel? You can totally do that, Andy, into Church360 members, and then that flows into Unite. We don't offer that, I believe, straight into Unite, but I could be wrong. What programming language is used in developing Unite? I believe it's Ruby on Rails with, obviously, because it's in a web builder, some HTML aspects to it. If we use Shepherd Staff currently, what additional cost estimate to switch to Church360 with Unite? So that's a really big question. So because what you're asking is, I would need to know, whether or not you're using, like if you're just using Shepherd Staff Finance, or you're using the whole of Shepherd Staff, or you have the finance module as well. And then, when you switch to Church360 members, if that's part of this, that then is inclusive to um, how big your congregation is. And so that would be a question. Um, Ledger is kind of like the Shepherd Staff Finance piece. Got a lot of cool stuff coming out for it actually soon. That then is discounted based on how many other products you have. But then Unite is priced based off of what additional features you want, like how many admin, how much more gigabyte space on the site. Like if you're posting a lot of pictures, you might need more room, or you might not. Or if you want included domain and email service as well. So there's a huge fluctuation. So I would really encourage you to talk to our software consultants about that. Again, you can email or call this information here, and we'd be able to kind of figure out what the ideal fit is for you. And again, all of our prices are on our website if you want to kind of do that yourself. We don't hide any prices from customers. Everything's there from the one-time startup fee to what those annual subscription rates are. But I think I need to have a sit down with you to kind of figure out what that is. So I can't answer it just in the kind of this casual setting. Roger, can we keep our current domain when using Unite? Yes, you totally can. No additional costs required there. Our support team has transferred hundreds of domains into from where they are now to Unite. That is something we do all the time. It's crazy easy for us. All right. I'm not seeing another question, but I am going to sit pretty here and let me know if there's anything else I can do. Happy to help or answer any questions you have. Well, if everyone's good, then I think I might just end things. I hope everyone has a blessed rest of your week, and please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. Thanks so much for joining with us today. Take care. Bye.